How's it going, guys and gals? This is Elder World coming back at you. We'll be discussing the 7 systems that are in place for early access for Endgame. If you'd like to blast maps and juice, stay tuned. The 7 systems in question, the first one being the Atlas, the core of the Endgame, infinitely expanding in all directions, similarly to how Delve worked in PathofExile 1. At the center of the Atlas, you can find the Ziggurat, where you will open portals to nearby locations to cleanse corruption, which is the primary goal when entering a map early on. To get to different map locations, you'll need the waystones, which are like maps, however they are different in the sense they are not itemized. You will not have a beach map, a forest map, etc. Instead, you will have tier 1 waystones that can get you to tier 1 locations. These waystones, just like their predecessor maps from PathofExile 1, can be modified to make them more challenging and rewarding. Prefix modifiers add positive modifiers, such as increased experience, whereas suffix modifiers increase the difficulty, which also adds to your rewards. To traverse the Atlas, you'll choose a location near the Ziggurat at first, then you can move from that location to any other connected maps. Once you have completed all requirements of cleansing the corruption by defeating all rare monsters or bosses found in each map, to traverse, you simply choose an available location and place a waystone in a waystone slot. Click Traverse, which will open a portal to the selected location. If you fail a map by dying, you are now locked out of that map, and you will have to find another route to locations past it. While exploring, you'll reveal more areas in the Atlas. To reveal a larger section, you'll come across things known as Lost Towers, that once you've activated will reveal a large portion of unexplored land. When referencing maps, the area themselves will have names, and these different maps can have different mob densities, which can make specific maps better for specific mechanics, such as higher densities for rituals to maximize your tribute to purchase rewards. Areas on the altar can contain corruption, which will add modifiers, one such as PathofExile 1's mechanic Beyond, for when enemies are killed in close proximity, there is a chance for demons to emerge from the portals created. Many of the smaller mechanics have been added back into PathofExile 2 from PathofExile 1. One of these is including shrines, which are now known as precursor artifacts, which I believe refers to many of the structures around the Atlas. But by cleansing this precursor artifact, you receive its buff. One of the best farming methods is back and better than ever. Strongbox is returning because basic crafting currencies are much more readily available. It'll make it that much easier to customize not only the risk, but the reward. Last but not least, of course, we have essence monsters, which have been frozen in time and are considered a type of corruption. They're crystallized corruption. The essence dropped can be used to make a white item into a magic item, and rare essences can be used to make a magic item into a rare item, thus guaranteeing that specific modifier on the item. Another big thing returning from PathofExile 1 to PathofExile 2 is the Atlas Tree. It allows you to directly buff your maps and what you can find in them, from better chances for strongboxes or precursor artifacts to appear, to more rares in each map, to just straight up item quantity in each map. There will also be subcategories in the Atlas Tree that the points are earned or directly correlate to the content you have been playing the most, as you can only gain these points through progression in each of the following mechanics, which also can be denoted on the map by icons that appear above the map: Breach, Expedition, Ritual, Delirium, and bosses. Yes, even bosses have their own specific tree in the Atlas, some of which will add a shrine to the area which contains a boss, or increases the level of the area which the boss is located. Let's discuss tablets. Tablets are the remastered version of sextants from PathofExile 1. If you love juicing your content, it's back, baby. Most of these mechanics can drop itemized tablets that can be used in the Lost Towers to affect the effective radius of the tower to contain more of the specific mechanic of which the tablet originated. Tablets can be modified similarly to waystones, however they seem to mainly contain positive modifiers, such as adding more clasped hands for breach or increasing rarity of items found in your maps. And you can use more than one tablet in towers with overlapping areas of effect. These seem to be limiting factors of each tablet to the amount of locations affected within the tower radius. The number shown in the video is 6 to 9 within the range of the tower, though these numbers are just examples, as we don't have the exacts on the number of maps that can be effective range. Each endgame mechanic has some form of player power that can be accessed, many of which offer a type of crafting material specific of that item. I will list them off. If you wish to know more, please take a look at my previous crafting information video, which will be linked at the end of this video. We start with the breach mechanic. On top of containing specialized items such as breach rings, we will have the added player power of catalysts, which are a crafting mechanic. Breach stones return, as they would now be considered specialized waste stones, no longer itemized by a specific breach demon. These breach stones can be used at special locations called realm gates, which will open a portal to the breach dimension. In this dimension, we will step over a breach hand that will expand through the entire area, just as it functioned in Path of Exile 1. If you are fast enough in killing the monsters that spawn, you will have the opportunity to fight the leader of the breach, Zesht. We who are one. By defeating him, you progress by gaining Atlas points specific to breach. The points earned can be used to increase the difficulty of breach. The breach lord Zest, who when defeated, you will gain even more points to increase the rewards you can obtain from breach encounters. Ritual altars have returned and function exactly as they did in Path of Exile 1. You defeat the enemies located within the altar radius, after which you can activate the altar to fight the sacrificed enemies once more. The more enemies you defeat, the higher the amount of tribute you earn to use on purchasing items. There are multiple ritual altars located in affected maps. To obtain progression points in this mechanic, you will have to defeat the King in the Mist and increase in difficulties. The player power added by this mechanic are omens, which have been reworked to now be used in metacrafting. Delirium will work exactly as it did in Path of Exile 1. When you encounter a mirror of delirium, if you walk through it, delirium fog will spread across the map. To increase your final rewards, you will want to defeat as many enemies as possible within the fog before it dissipates. The further in the map you get within the fog, monsters will become more difficult and more rewarding. The player power added to this mechanic are itemized distilled emotions. To progress this mechanic, you will collect simulacrum splinters, which will allow you to go into a different realm to fight waves of monsters. Upon completion of all the way, you will be rewarded with points that can be used to increase the difficulty and rewards from Delirium. Next, we come to Expedition. It'll work exactly like it did in Path of Exile 1. You'll come across a dig site where you'll place explosives to uncover treasure chests and monsters, some of which can be noted by a larger skull. These monsters are known as runic monsters and can be much more rewarding. We'll also come across remnants, which will modify the monsters and chests uncovered. Each progressive explosion will keep the previous modifiers and apply them plus the next remnant. Occasionally, you'll find a logbook that will allow you to enter into a specialized map area that can be opened by the leader of the Calgurn group, Danning. The player agency offered here is you'll be able to trade the Calgurn currencies you find with the group of Calgurn merchants, Gwenin, Tujin, Rog, and Danning. To progress in this mechanic, you'll have to face off with Ulroth in the aforementioned logbooks. When you encounter him, doing so will offer you points into the expedition mechanic to increase difficulty and reward, of course. Next endgame mechanic we're going to discuss actually takes place outside of the Atlas. That mechanic is the Trial of the Sekima, which is one of the 3 methods you can use to ascend during the campaign. This trial functions exactly the same as Sanctum did, but if you are unfamiliar, though, the way it works is you progress room to room in a dungeon crawler style. Each room can contain boons or curses that will affect you until you have completed or failed the dungeon, which you can fail by dying or losing all of your honor, which is like a secondary life pool, which once depleted you will fail. Access to this mechanic is obtained by capturing the soul of a djinn and a coin. That coin then can be used to enter the trial. In the trial, a secondary currency can be obtained, which is called sacred water, which can be traded to the djinn merchant for boons. The rooms in the dungeon are broken up similarly to how they were in Path of Exile 1. There are trap rooms, gauntlet rooms, rooms that you must defeat monsters, etc. Each one will contain a reward room of sorts. Some will have merchants, some will have shrines that can be heal or buff you. You can get treasure chests or treasure keys to collect at the end. At the end of the floor, you will encounter a boss. The first time this trial is taken on during the campaign to ascend your class, however, the end game variant will be much more challenging and rewarding. The player power that can be obtained here are specialized jewels that can be placed into your passive tree to gain small benefits or also affect passives around around the socketed jewel. Progression within the trial of the second mode will revolve around completion of the floors, defeating the bosses. Items known as relics can be dropped that will make the floors/rooms easier and more rewarding. However, if you complete all 4 floors, defeating the final boss, you can obtain specialized relics that have special rewards attached to them. However, these will increase the difficulty of the run in many ways, one of which will set your honor to 1. This will make it very difficult, as you would have to complete the trial without being hit. As you gain higher level coins, you can enter higher level dungeons with more floors, up to 4 floors in total. Another of the 3 mechanics which can be used to ascend in your class is called the Trial of Chaos. This can be looked at as Ultimatum version 3.0. as it has been modified greatly. However, you are still dealing with the entity known as the Trial Master, who will offer you rewards for completing his trials. In the Trial of Chaos, located in the Temple of Chaos, to gain entry into the trial, the Trial Master will provide you with an inscribed ultimatum in your first attempt and when you're doing your ascension. It can be up to 10 chambers total. When entering the trial chamber, you must select the debuff or external threat that will be added to this chamber, as well as all of the following chambers. Each chamber will have an objective, such as killing the monsters, to survive a specific amount of time, or even to escort an idol to its location. If you're able to make it to the end of the first 3 chambers, you will face a randomized boss, after which, defeating the first time, you will be able to ascend. Later in Endgame, you'll be able to obtain higher level inscribed ultimatums, which can be used to enter the Trial of Chaos. Higher level ultimatums will have more chambers that will need to be completed to finish the trial. After every 3rd chamber, there will be a boss, with a total of 3 bosses for the 10 chambers, each chamber adding some sort of negative effect to itself and all of those that follow. The player power that can be gained here involves crafting items known as Val Orbs, as well as items that can be socketed into gear known as Soul Cores. At the end game, of course, there is progression involved with this mechanic that involves collecting the keys dropped by the boss, the 3rd boss that is, through the Trial of Chaos chamber. This key can be used to fight the pinnacle boss of the area, which is rumored to be the Trial Master himself. The final endgame system we're going to discuss is found back on the Atlas. There you can find a maze-looking structure that will require 3 keys to enter. Local factions have obtained these keys. It is up to you to acquire them from these factions, which are led by uber versions of act bosses. But to even fight them, you'll have to defeat their 2 lieutenants in the adjacent zones. If you fail against the lieutenants or the boss themselves, they will flee and you must find them again. Again, if you're able to complete the pinnacle boss in this maze, you'll obtain points that can be used to increase its reward and difficulty. This wraps up the systems that will be available at the start of early access on December 6th. I don't know about you, but I'm excited to explore all of these systems and progress in them. The last system mentioned is similar to how Conquerors of the Atlas initially worked, as they could flee when you failed to defeat them. But this is Elder of Wolf saying, over and out. I'll see you guys next time.